guys, I am making this one in kind of a follow-up from the Friends YouTube video I made. And if you haven't seen that, please go and watch it, because this might not make much sense, but I was just pointing out that with inside media there's a lot of brainwashing going on. And my prime example was that the only spiritual person in that massive show was always deemed to be an oaf, and also it was constantly promoting very low-level things like gluttony, sexual immorality, pornography, and bizarre family units. You know, like this, one of the characters gave birth to her brother's triplets and things like this, and always just total bombardment of the psyche of a human being, and saying it's not always innocent. It has an effect on you if you're conscious of it or not. It has an effect of how the world goes. And a lot of people, there's mixed response, predominantly positive, saying this is amazing. A lot of people were saying, well, you know, if I want to watch that, I will. Or, you know, I see people have a loving connection to the show, and they want to defend it in their way. And some people felt that it doesn't do that, but I say it does, because the problem, I think, is that you have to get into a really deep level of consciousness. And what I'm starting to call it, and it's a new term I've coined, is matchstick consciousness. It sounds, what's that? Well, if you're going to live in this world, in the developed world, where you've got media and entertainment, and you know without any doubt that they use it to control your decision making. They do it with politics, and that drives me more crazy than anything. You know, whenever there's an election coming up, everybody's talking politics, but when there's no election, no one's talking politics. You know, it's a very clear sign that the media is just totally controlling what people do. And your discussion on the upcoming election, why should it fade away? Why should it be that way? Why should we be so disempowered that only when new leaders might come into power do we discuss it as if we've got something behind us, we're trying to change the world by backing that guy, but if he gets in or if he doesn't, we're going to do nothing else until the next election, then start chat. That's exactly what millions of people do. Media does it to them. But matchstick consciousness inside that media comes from a mind's eye vision, which you all will have, I feel. And that is these movies and cartoons where someone's brainwashed and they prop their eyes open with matchsticks. Now, if you had that done to you from such a young age that you didn't know those matchsticks were not meant to be there, you would not be conscious that the matchsticks were part of a massive problem that media was being fed into you. It's a very crude analogy, but it works, because you need to become conscious of the matchsticks. But then in your modern world, you're saying, well, I don't sit with matchsticks wedged in my eyes watching TV shows. I don't do that. So why would I need to be conscious of them? Because the matchsticks have changed. The matchsticks, like the noisiest aeroplane in the world, the matchsticks have changed. They've modernized. They've grown. Now, as you look at those matchsticks propping open eyes, you can look at the matchsticks today propping open your eyes. Bright colours, quickly changing scenes, and beautiful people, adjusted colouring as well, and storylines that are there just to make you go, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, what's going to happen? These are all matchsticks. It's not innocent if you're looking at it in that way. If something has subversive script writing, you shouldn't be scared of everything. You know, movie making's an art form, but some of it is very subversive, and some of it is not in any way agenda-free, guys. It's really not agenda-free. And until we become conscious of what the matchsticks are, then I think many people will not see what many of us are starting to see. Television was invented to control people. It wasn't invented to entertain you. Television is used in a horrendous way. And there's a wonderful speech in the movie Network, which I've uploaded before, and I'll maybe put that speech at the end of what I'm saying, actually. Although it'll rob my ad revenue for the children. It's only a couple $100 a month anyway, so be it. It's not your best friend But it can be educational, it can be a friend. But you've got to be really conscious. And you've got to be conscious of the matchsticks, because otherwise you're going to be drawn in and you're going to have a heart that attaches to these shows, these characters, these people, and the things they do become a norm to you as well. It's totally acceptable to be the way these people are because you spend so much time with them in your own home. Now, all of that is still, it's like 90% nutrition, 10% poison. The poison's what it's there for. It's like poisoning a rat. But you've got to get conscious of the matchsticks. You've got to look around and ask, what's doing that to me? Now, recently, I discovered, to my utter disbelief, how hooked I was on my smartphone simply by changing my screen to be black and white. It's unbelievable how less attractive the smartphone is and playing with it and going to check this, that, and when it's in black and white. You're not as drawn to it at all. That is a matchstick I was not conscious of. And now I am. So my phone goes into black and white a lot of the time. I was following isms, die-hard isms that I'd been brought into, and they actually served as matchsticks as to my view on the world. But those are not elitist matchsticks in my eyes, because I want to focus on the matchsticks inside this screen. But as you become conscious, you can start to get what I'm saying. So colour. The vibrance of a colour on a screen via blue light is more attractive to a human being than the colours out here. That's a fact. That's why I can walk around in the city, I can come here, there's nobody here. There's so many people here, but there's nobody here. I know people are working, but if you come on a weekend, it's equally just as few people, because they're all on the screen somewhere. And I used to see it in the village where I lived. You'd walk up, and when the soaps were on, you'd look in every window, same scenery, and I thought, man, it's just extracting life from these people. They're not living, they're just sitting there, and they can't do anything with this screen other than watch it. Then the screen in itself, if you're using if you're using televisions, flicker at a rate that brings your mind into alpha, a very suggestible space, especially when you're not conscious. There's a difference between watching something consciously and critically, or watching something and just allowing it. I can watch a movie first time and kind of just allow it. Second time I'll watch it, I'll start being critical and I'll see all of the crap, all of the matchsticks. Matchstick consciousness, matchstick awareness. If you want to start seeing these things for yourself, without maybe other people nudging you to switch the light bulb on, so you just have your own original light bulb moments, just meditate and get still on the matchsticks. What is impulsively moving my body without my will? Bright screens, bright noises, well-edited things with changing scenery, big, beautiful, bright sets. Beautiful people. Lots of talk of stimulating things for the flesh, sex and the like, and of course, then again, sex. As you're watching these things, there's all different levels of who you are, from primitive to intellectual to wise, can all be hacked by these things. Even a wise man can have his mind hacked by bright, flashy screens. If only, though, he loses sight of being conscious of the present moment, can that happen? And that's because the living are only in the present moment. And God talks to me in the present moment, and not when I'm watching those shows, or not when I'm in that state of consciousness, not necessarily when I'm watching something. What I mean is, our God is the God of the living. When you are just throwing yourself over to false light, not God's light, here now in the present moment, false light, when you're constantly throwing yourself over to it, especially when that light is subversively done and it's filled with sinful concepts and satanic ideas, who do you think's controlling that light? The false God. Certainly not the God of the living. You see, when we are here and present and we watch something, these subversive concepts can't go into us and change us, but for me as a young man, they could. Someone who gluttonizes and has a lot of sex seems quite appealing to a teenage boy. But as a man, you what a pointless waste of life, how vile. But only if you're conscious, because otherwise you'll stay on it and go, yeah, that's cool, you know? Because this is where you're getting your information from, this light screen coming to you. God is this light out here. To take that light is to play God in your life. To not be able to be conscious of what's happening to you in the journey of start to finish in that light, as the point where you're not with the God of the living. You're not in his world. You've gone into another one. He can still come around and access you, but he needs his angels to talk to you. And angels are photons travelling on angles of light. And if the only light coming to you is coming from here, they're not his angles of light anymore. They're the bad angles. The fallen angles. And thus, the only way to truly live safely in the Western system using entertainment and among the adverts is to have full consciousness of as many matchsticks as you possibly can. That way you can start to identify and share with others, hey, do you know this? Because if you'd asked me a few months ago about the colour on the screen of my phone, I wouldn't have said it was a matchstick. But since I started using it in black and white, it's definitely a matchstick. It's holding my eyes open. Ooh. Because I'm still an animal like you, and you can still hack me and program us, yeah? So don't be hackable. Just be conscious, be here, be now, be with the God of the living. Be with the God of the living. Take no thought for tomorrow. And trust that God will provide for you. Look to the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, yet our Heavenly Father provides. Come out of the false light. God will be there for you to find you a replacement for it. Once the addiction is over, He'll be there for you once you get through that. Because you'll crave the emotions that the TV shows give you. You'll crave the ability to just throw your mind over and not have to bother with it. But once you get past that and the discomfort, God will be there. And you know what? He'll have infinite possibilities to send you many different angels that you never had a chance to hear before. Simply because you switched off your TV, or simply because you managed, at least, your usage of such electronic devices. So, I'm going to leave it there. The speech I mentioned, I'll cut into another video and upload it after this one. So, God bless, guys. Be vigilant.